We're coming to you live from the Built Full Tough Studio. Boomer Esiason, Greg Giannotti, it's Boomer and Gio on the Fan. Simulcast across the country on CBS Sports Network. And wherever you are in the free Odyssey app, good Thursday morning. I wasn't worried after the blowout in Game 1. I knew that the Mets were going to come back in Game 2 and make this a series. Gave them a pass. It'll be okay. And they did come back in Game 2. However, last night was different. They didn't have it from the get-go. It just felt weird in the second inning, the way things were unfolding. The Francisco Alvarez mistake of throwing to second base, Luis Severino not being able to corral the second ball that gets hit right to him. Second inning, stranding runners. And this one was a complete and total bummer. Now, I'm not going to sit here and start killing these guys. I did enough of that in April and May. They deserve every bit of faith and respect with what they've done this year. But, man, was that so disappointing and, quite frankly, unexpected to get blown out again like that. Now, they were very close to getting a big hit several times, didn't do it. So I know that they'll be able to be in situations tonight, getting guys on base, and maybe they get the big hit this time around. But Carlos Mendoza, who after the game said, hey, I'm sticking with my guys, I'm sticking with Alvarez, I'm not changing anything, that might be a mistake, because sometimes making that one move to change things where you're not panicking, but you've seen enough, could be the difference in winning and losing a series. And I think that he needs to seriously consider not having Francisco Alvarez in the lineup. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, G. I don't think it's going to happen. He's going to ride with the guys who got him here. And, Francisco Alvarez is a very important part and piece of the future at 22 years old. And I think we've talked about, his struggles. And we talked about how he seems to be paralysis by analysis right now. And he is totally overwhelmed in the batter's box, and he just needs to either have a day where he can get a couple hits and a couple big hits, but he is unfortunately, going through it as a young man, and it's not easy. And I'm sure that Carlos Mendoza, will talk to him, and I'm sure Francisco Lindor will talk to him and try to keep his confidence up, and it's a hard thing to do. But how
about the fact we talked about he needs to relax, start gripping the bat too titles, and his first swing, he throws his bat into the netting.
It's a tough deal. But listen, Luis Severino didn't have it last night either. I mean, you wanted a really good performance from him. You thought after the first inning, okay, let's settle down, let's settle in, and then the second inning was a disaster. Walks. The ball never left the infield, for God's sake. Yeah. And, the little, 3-foot number out in front of the plate, and again, a player who's doing too much or trying to do too much. And it's evident to everybody, and I'm sure it's evident to Francisco Alvarez, and I'm sure he feels miserable about it. But, somehow you got to keep his confidence up. You just got to you got to support your players who got here. We're at the NLCS. It's one game. They got to win 4 before the whole thing's over with. So you have plenty of time to, get back into this thing and show your mettle and show what kind of team you've been this entire year. And it's not just Alvarez.
No,
it's Iglesias. It's it's poor Brandon Nimmo could barely walk.
JD Martinez.
So it's a little bit of everybody, just like it is when they win. So again, it was disappointing, just like Game 1 was disappointing. But they came back in Game 2, and I would think that they'll come back again tonight, and you got Quintana on the mound. The thing about it is, Walker Buehler threw 90 pitches in 4 innings. They had him on the ropes.
Yeah, and that was actually the best he has pitched in a while,
they're swinging at bad pitches, too.
And, yeah, he's getting them to chase, and was striking guys out. So it was really, really frustrating because I thought that they had an advantage with the starting pitching matchup last night. And I don't think they've got that advantage the next couple of days because they're throwing Yamamoto and Flaherty in 4 and 5. So
you never know, man. Come on, this is baseball, and the next day you wake up and you turn the page, as a lot of people in this country would like to do. Yeah. And I would just say for the Mets, they wake up today and they got another opportunity.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't want to sit here and I'm not going to pound on Alvarez all morning long because he is a young guy, and I know that he's trying his ass off. But the reason why I think it's time, and I know he's not going to do it because he works well with Quintana, and Mendoza was asked about it several times last night. He's like, no, Alvarez is playing. That's the end of it. Is he is now so lost that he has gone, the pendulum has swung the other way. So, and people who have played sports at any level, who have struggled with anything, whether it be pickleball or golf or whatever, know when this happens. Like when you get screwed up and then all of a sudden you're trying different things now that's doubly screwing you up. So what I mean with Alvarez is he's swinging and missing, he can't hit the fastball. He's popping up a fastball when he gets it. And even John Smoltz is talking about technique and where his bat is. It's like he's never going to be able to catch up to these fastballs and barrel it up with the way that his mechanics are in the box. So then he starts taking pitches. So now he's so screwed up because he's swinging and missing that he's just like, I might as well just take some pitches. And he strikes out twice looking at strikes right down the middle. It's like, so now he's just so far screwed up. He's the other. He's like, I might as well just not swing. So how many runners has he stranded in the last 2 games?
By the way, the one thing I will say, Dave Roberts now knows that if they do get to the bottom of the lineup and he's in the mix, just pitch around somebody else and just get to him because it's going to be an automatic out until he wakes up, if he wakes up, and
he still can, and
I'm sure he can. They all can, and I would just say, even Francisco Lindor was swinging a couple bad pitches.
Yeah,
I'm not sitting there saying that.
That knuckle curve of Bueller was abusing Lindor last night.
It was, and he had a rough night, and that's the way it goes in baseball, and that's why there's always tomorrow in baseball. Now, tomorrow is coming early. I will say that
until there isn't,
and it's hard to think of yourself. Oh my God, this is an oh my God Met team. They've done a lot of great things this year. Why would that change right now?
No,
they've had two really bad games, and a lot of it is because of walks, because of bad decisions in the field, and I said defense wins championships as well. Everybody just thinks offensively until the ugly defense shows itself. We saw that when the Mets played the Royals back in 2015. The Royals fundamentally sound, made all the plays, made guys like Lucas Duda actually throw the ball to somebody.
Yeah.
And they knew that was a weakness of the Mets, so they wanted to get the ball in his hands to see what he could do with it and put pressure on him to make a play. Now, the only reason I point that out is because I think that's where we are right now with the Mets. And Dave Roberts could say, look, man, Francisco Lindor is going to be a great young player someday, or maybe he already is. Alvarez.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be a guy that we're going to take advantage of whenever we can, because we can see that mentally he is certainly struggling.
Yeah, he is, and he's always felt like he was, mature beyond his years, being able to step right in there and be a factor. And you pointed out when he came back, he really seemed like a leader and a force and energy in the lineup. It just, it's not that at this point. And, I don't – Iglesias is going to be in the lineup. I can't imagine that he won't be. But that double play last night and the way that he's been at the plate chasing is just not the guy we saw in the regular season. You saw his numbers at Citi Field all year long. He's hitting over 400. His OPS is through the roof. But he's not that same player right now. He's chasing. He's trying too hard. That double play, to me, was as much of a killer as anything last night. So, yeah, they've had their struggles. And, Jeff McNeil gets an at-bat. I know Mendoza loves this idea about these guys working hard to get back to be a part of this thing.
Yep.
And I know Tyrone Taylor is an Albert Pujols. But do we need to see Jeff McNeil in that situation?
It's just,
we don't.
You know what? At the end of the day, it's an 8-0 whitewashing.
But it wasn't at that point.
I know, but trying to get players in, and I don't know.
It wasn't 8-0 at that point. And you could see Tyrone Taylor was disappointed to put the camera on him in the dugout. And they went over to McNeil and he slapped him on the back after he popped out. But it's like, I don't need to see these guys. And plus,
time out now. Hold on now.
I don't need to see Kodai Senga and Jeff McNeil. I don't.
I know you don't, but I'm just saying that, in the meantime, while we're saying we don't need to see Kodai Senga and Jeff McNeil, we're also saying that maybe they should sit down Alvarez.
But the point being, Torrens has been a guy who's been here. Now, I know he's Luis Torrens. I get it. But he's been here, and he's been healthy, and has been a part of it. These guys have been gone for months. That's a difference.
The way we're talking this morning is how we should be talking if and when it's over and if they will lose. They haven't lost yet. They had a dud. Everybody needs to relax, take a big, deep breath, and come back today and win. And, it takes 4 to win these things now. And I said, I am not going to just come in here and just start ripping away. There were there were some mistakes that were made. There were some key players that didn't live up to what you needed them to do, as opposed to what the Dodgers did.
Yeah.
The Dodgers got a decent performance from Buehler, like 90 pitches in 4 innings. I mean, they had him on the ropes.
Yeah, I don't.
And they just could not come through where the Dodgers were able to come through.
Right, of course, and that's what it comes down to. It's that clutch hitting, and that's really the difference. But and like I said, I'm not going to sit here it all morning long pound on these guys. But we've talked about and had some fun with tipping points.
Yes.
This might be a tipping point situation where
Like
Carlos Mendoza's got to say, do I make a change here?
Can't.
I mean,
can't.
I don't know. I
He's
just
asked a lot from all these guys all year long, and
but you said it yourself. The guy's an automatic out.
I know. But the other thing I'm going to say to you though is that there is a closeness amongst this team, and when a manager starts making like changes and getting himself involved, all of a sudden it's panic city. And the one thing about Carlos Mendoza that he hasn't done at all this year, at any point in time, he hasn't panicked. He hasn't panicked. He stayed true to his team. He's given his players opportunities. The story about Iglesias and about where he was last year and about him coming back and almost quitting baseball totally, and Carlos Mendoza telling him, "Hey, look, the first guy is you go down to AAA. You have a good AAA. If somebody gets hurt, you're going to be the first guy up." Yeah. And he stayed true to that. Like, he didn't lie to him. He told him that he was going to give him a chance. And that whole thing with OMG and everything else has been a big part of this year, and due a large part to Carlos Mendoza being honest.
Yeah, and
with Iglesias.
Right,
I love that.
And I don't want to take him out of the lineup. I just want him to chill out, stop chasing, and become that player that he was in the regular season at Citi Field. That's all. I'm not taking him out of the lineup. It's Alvarez, the one I would consider. And and this is not. I still believe this team is done it time and time again. So you cannot lose any faith after this loss. It's just what I'll say is it's the first time since Pete Alonso came up and had to hit that 3-run homer that I felt like, like when he was coming up in that situation. Yes. I remember texting my friends. Of course he's going to ground it to a double play and the season's going to end. And I was like, this is over.
What did he do?
And he hit the home run.
Yeah, okay.
So then after that, I had been supremely confident throughout the entire Phillies series. Said they weren't going back to Philadelphia. They didn't panic at all after game 1. Came back and won game 2. It's just the first time. Now, this is not losing faith. This is not being negative. It's just the first time I'm not supremely confident where I'm like, okay. This is concerning.
I mean, from the Dodger standpoint, I would say, Muncy, that bat with Will Smith.
Yeah,
that was an unbelievable at bat. I mean, that's the bottom of the order.
They're a great team.
I mean, they are a great team, and they're supposed to be doing these things. And quite frankly, they're supposed to be here. It's kind of like the Yankees. They're supposed to be here. Now the question is can the Indians and the Mets find the magic? And the Mets did find the magic in Game 2, and why can't they find it tonight? Another good, hopefully good pitching performance, and hopefully Yamamoto is, average.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want to talk about the magical script that has gone on with the Mets, I mean, this would be another chapter where we talked about Yamamoto for so long. He had dinner at Steve Cohen's home. Steve Cohen offered him more money than anybody, and then it felt like he was using the Mets as leverage. And now in the most important game of their season, here comes Yamamoto in that building. How great would it be to smack him around?
Yeah, it would be great. That's the way you got to look at it. And I know that this morning it's kind of pick up the pieces morning here, and that's kind of what we're doing. But you also have to remember that they still have a long way to go.
Yeah.
And, in a few short days, we're going to know exactly. We'll know tomorrow morning when we come in here what it feels like. And I know it feels like crap right now, but this team has been resilient all year long. And I know if you went to the game last night, you were probably in your car driving home just absolutely disappointed. I don't think anybody's mad at anybody. I don't feel like, the anger at the beginning of the season.
It's just concern.
Right. I don't feel that. I don't feel that about this team because of where they are and what they've done.
Right. It's not it's frustration and it's concern for me are the two things. And you got to believe that they're going to come back and play well tonight. They're not going to have another stinker dud game at home. They can't. That's not who they are.
I bet you this is exactly what the Cleveland sports fans are talking about about their Indians.
Yeah, but
this has been a great year for the Guardians.
Yeah.
Oh my God, The Guardians,
Oh, my God.
they've had a great year, and I'm sure they're saying the same thing in Cleveland as we're saying right now about the New York Mets. And again, like I said, it's disappointing for sure. But listen, these baseball players, they get up the next day, and next thing you know, you go 3 for 3, you hit a home run. And by the way, the Mets hit a couple balls last night that you thought were going to go out.
Yeah, the Pete Alonso one for sure. I mean, even Lindor, the first at-bat of the game, that ball carried, and I was like, man, maybe the ball's going to be carried. Carried for the Dodgers, not for the Mets.
Yes, it did carry for the Dodgers. Maybe they hit it just a little bit harder.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, I just know that Mendoza's going to get I'm sure he got a lot of tough questions last night. I didn't see his post game, and I'm sure Jerry will have some sound from last night's post game press conference. But he's in an impossible position because some of his really important players that have really come through big this year have kind of hit the skids a little bit here, and he's got to stand by them. So I understand exactly where Carlos Mendoza is coming. He's been around a long time. He's a baseball man.
Baseball man.
He understands what's going on. He's pushed a lot of right buttons this year. He's going to be up for manager of the year. And you know what? This is where you really get your mettle tested, if you will, because a lot of questions are going to be asked. Are you going to move this guy around in the batting order? You're going to sit this guy down. This guy's not playing well. You're going to give this other guy a shot. And they're like, hey, man, just chill out. We're down 2-1. We got a game today, and we're going to come back. And the same guys that have gotten us here are going to be the same guys that are going to either get us out of this or we're going to lose with them. And that to me, you could say whatever you want out there. To me, I love that. I love the loyalty. I love.
But then on the other hand, he's throwing Kodai Senga in there and forcing him into the lineup when he hasn't been into the rotation when he hasn't been around at all. So I mean, that's counter to everything.
But that's also the front office too. That's not just him. Yeah. That's the front office. That is a organizational, as they say, an organizational decision.
Collaboration.
Well, decision.
Yeah.
Well, you want to say they're collaborating.
Yeah, it's collaborative.
Listen, there's a lot of collaboration that goes on in sports.
Right.
Like we collaborate all the time, and we're not even like a sports team, but we're a team, and we collaborate.
Indeed. A lot of collaboration.
Here.
All right, Boomer and Gio on the Fan and CBS Sports Network. We will collaborate with Jerry Recco coming up in just a couple of minutes. Got some weather for you right now.